For writing a compelling thesis, you should state your thesis in a complete sentence and make your thesis as specific as possible. It is okay to have a 2 to 3 sentence thesis to make sure you have all the details you need, so don't feel like you absolutely have to fit everything into one sentence. Also, make sure your thesis is original and debatable. This comes back to the idea of the motive. So by establishing your motive and thinking about how your own thoughts differ from other interpretations of the literature, you're making sure that your thesis is original and that someone might disagree with it, so it's debatable. However, avoid using the first-person perspective like "in my opinion" or "I think." Those kind of statements can just be cut out. We already know that what you're writing about in your paper is your own thoughts and opinions. Here's an example thesis statement based on your prompt that you have for paper number 1. While Beowulf is loyal, he lacks humility. Beowulf undoubtedly makes a good hero, but lacks some key components of a good king. This is a great example thesis statement because not every reader is going to agree with it. Some people might think that Beowulf is both a good hero and a good king. Some people might think he's neither, or they might just have the opposite opinion of this student and think that he's not a very good hero but is a very good king. So there's lots of different ways that a person could argue about Beowulf's character. Now we need to talk about evidence. In order to use appropriate evidence in a literature essay, you'll need to use direct quotes, paraphrases, and summary descriptions of the text. Try to include 1 or 2 direct quotes per body paragraph. Keep in mind that you only need to quote directly if the specific word choice is significant. Sometimes it works just as well to paraphrase or summarize a key detail from the story, but whenever you see some really significant word choice, especially if you have examples of figurative language, it would be good to actually include the direct quote. Try to keep those quotes on the shorter side as well, so anywhere between 1 and 3 lines on the page of your paper. Make quotation sandwiches when incorporating quotes. This will help prevent any issues with dropped quotes, which means that you have to have 3 different components when including a quote. First, you introduce the quote with some context. Then you quote the passage, including the page numbers if you have them, in an MLA in-text citation. And finally, you explain your interpretation of the quote's significance for your own argument. The reason that we like to call this a quotation sandwich is because the quote is like the meat in the middle, and then your own commentary before and after the quote are the 2 pieces of bread that are required to fully integrate that quote. There are also a couple things to keep in mind if you need to do any modifications to your quote. If you must add your own words to the quote, and this would usually be for clarification purposes, put brackets around your words. So for example, if there is a pronoun like they in the middle of the quote, and you want to provide some clarification of who they is referring to, you could use brackets to show specifically who's being referred to. If you must omit words from a quotation, use ellipses, which are 3 periods in a row. Sometimes you'll find that you like the beginning of a quote and you like the end of the quote, and that the word choice is really important in the beginning and end, but the section in the middle might be something you don't need. If it's not necessary for actually putting forward your argument, you can use ellipses to cut out the section that you don't need for your readers to review.